Well, good evening, everyone. I want to welcome you to Hewitt. Hopefully nobody got lost. I did explain to one person, if you did get lost in Hewitt, you will be the first.
Circle twice.
Yeah. But anyway, what we're here tonight for is we've got a lot of decisions that we need to be making soon. And one of them is who is going to be our rep for House District 5B. And these three candidates that are sitting at the head table here are going to be trying to convince you that they're the ones that you should be supporting. And so that's why we're here. We're going to let them answer questions. We're going to let them have a opening statement, and then we'll let any questions that you guys have. The one thing we're going to do, we do have 2 mics, so the questions, when you have it, I'll run around so everyone can hear them. And so that's how we'll do it. And we've never really done this before, so we're just kind of winging it, and we'll see how things work. And to get started, I'm reminded of a gentleman that asked me a question once about being involved in politics. And he said, well, how can you do this? You know, because of all the turmoil and all that. Come on in. I said it's real simple. We start every meeting with a prayer and a pledge of allegiance. So that's what we're going to do tonight. So if you'll bow your heads. Heavenly Father, thank you so much for giving us the opportunity tonight to gather, to get information, to ask our questions. We have a lot of decisions to make, and we need to make the right ones that will help our country, our county, our state, and we need your guidance and wisdom and knowledge to do this. So we ask that you help us to do the best that we can. And we ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The one thing I did forget to mention, my name's Jerry Ozzie. I'm the chair of the Taft County meeting we do, and a joint effort with Wadena, and I'll turn it over to Lisa.
Well, hello, everybody. My name is Lisa Murphy. I'm the chair of Wadena County Republicans. And thank you for coming tonight. We figured these guys, we got some fresh faces here, and we have some decisions to make on who we want to elect. Well, it's pretty hard to do that when you don't know them. So we're putting them out here to let everybody ask the questions so we can make an educated decision. And right now, excuse me, one of the big things I know that comes to people's mind is that we have people sign a pledge agreement to abide by the endorsement. And all 3 of these gentlemen have pledged to abide by the endorsement, and so I'm going to have them sign them right now, because that way you all know. All right, and then they'll need witnesses too. But feel free to ask questions. There's coffee and cookies over there. What we'll do is we're going to let them start out first, introducing themselves, give you a quick rundown, and then raise your hand. Jerry, come over with the microphone. Please keep it to a question and not a statement, if you could, that way we can keep things rolling. And we'd like to have everybody, all three gentlemen, answer the question. So it's not just a question to one, but a question to all, and they'll take turns answering the question. That way we all get to know where their thoughts lie. So, I guess that's it. We'll start with John, since he happens to be right here.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Jonathan Clausen. And just a few personal notes. I wanted to say thank you to all of you to be part of the process. We live in an amazing country, and we know that when we watch the news, and even with Iranians and the things that they are experiencing, we should never take for granted the freedoms and liberties that we have here. So thank you for gathering and being part of the process, and to my fellow candidates as well. What a great opportunity to share openly the things that concern all of us, and I'm privileged to be an American and be part of the process. So I'm just going to tell you just quickly a little bit about me. I think our platform positions will come out as we go through the next several hours of questions. So I am I live just south of Staples, between Staples and Browerville, right in that area, and I've lived there for 25 years. I'm a Minnesotan from the very beginning, and I've been a Christian conservative Republican from the very beginning as well. So also on a personal note, my father, who was 90, just passed away last week. So we're still mourning the loss of him, and he was the best dad in the whole world. But he called me about 3 weeks ago and said, "Johnny boy," he said, "I had a dream." And he said, "I dreamt that you were walking around and shaking hands and telling everybody that you were a CCR." That's what he said in the dream. And I said, "Well, what does that mean?" He goes, "Well, you're a Christian conservative Republican. That's what you were telling everybody in the dream." And my wife just got done printing brochures. At the very top, I have Christian conservative Republican. So I showed it to Papa, and I said, "This is exactly what I have already." So we'll miss him, but he would have loved this. And so I'm glad to be part of that. I am a husband to this beautiful woman in the front row named Amy. I've been married to her for 30 years. Best decision ever made in my entire life. And then we have 8 children. We have the bookends here tonight. My oldest son Jacob is here, and my youngest daughter Sadie. So we have the oldest and the youngest here. We have homeschooled all of our children all the way through. When I say that, I mean my wife has homeschooled our children all the way through. I was the principal and the FIAD teacher, pretty much. And so we've enjoyed that. I have been a family practice physician at Lakewood Health System in Staples since 2001. And so I've been there for 25 years. And I did 15 years of full scope family medicine, and in the last 10 years I've just been in the ER. So hopefully I didn't see any of you there. So I love seeing you here, not there. And so I've also been president with my wife of a ministry called Go Fam Ministries, and it's a ministry that teaches and trains and equips about marriage, family, and parenting. And so I've written 2 books on the subject, and we have courses that we lead as well. And so that's been a true privilege for us. We believe that as family goes, so goes the culture. That's what we teach all the time. Even secular sociologists say as family goes, so goes the culture. So if we're concerned about the culture, the answer is healthy family. And so that's been really the mantra of our life and the things that have led and motivated us, for sure. I've led a podcast over the last 6 years called Pushback with Dr. Johnny, and I've just done a weekly dissertation on the things that were happening in the news and how we can approach that through faith and interact with people that even don't always see things the way that we do, but we know that his ways are higher than our ways. And so when we know that, we can have assurances, and with honor, we can have discussions with other people as well. So we've done that. And then Amy and I do a podcast called Famology. So I encourage you to check that out sometime, and we just answer questions about family and marriage and things. So that's what has motivated me. And I look forward to answering questions tonight and engaging with all of you, and appreciate you having us here. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Jeremiah Dwyer. I'm here with my wife, Tanya, back there. We've been married for 18 years. We have 6 kids, 3 adults and 3 teenage girls still at home. They attend Bloomingdale Public School. I was born and raised in Huntersville, which some of you may not know is like north by Monongahela and Emerald, in that area. And then now we live north of Ferndale, about 8 miles. And we do adult foster care out of our home. That's my main, for the last 2 years we've been doing that. Previous to that, I did underground utilities like fiber optic cable. We ran our own business for 9 years through that. Most of my career has been doing that. And then my wife works at Ferndale Family Life Church as the kids director. So that's basically our family. Our oldest daughter's down in Nashville, Tennessee, which is sad, but the rest of them are up here with us. And yeah, that's pretty much the scope on me. I mean, I'm sure we'll get a lot of questions tonight where we stand. Platform-wise, I just know that I am, when my wife and I were even thinking about doing this, I'm going to, if I get elected, or even not get elected, I'm going to do it everything biblically. If it goes against God's word, I'm not going to go for it. I'm not going to do it. And that's how I live my life now. Of course, I screw up. You can ask my wife on daily. But I still try to live for God, and I try to live for my Lord and Savior. And that's how I'm going to run this campaign, and that's how I'm going to run if I get elected. All right, thank you.
All right, hello everybody. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Drew Peterson. I've been involved for a little bit. I grew up in Staples, Minnesota. I was a wrestler in high school. My pride in high school was I joined my junior year, went to state my senior year. And I also want to give a big shout out to Staples Molly for winning state. Very proud of them. So I went to school when I was 18. I went for health and fitness, so I have a background in that. I have a background in blue collar labor. I've done landscaping, construction, and currently I'm doing warehouse work. I've done management in those fields, so I know how a system works, and I look for efficiency in all things. I've been involved with the Republican Party for a couple of years now. It started in 2023 this summer at the Medina County Fair. I was concerned about the skyrocketing price of housing and food, specifically beef. Beef was shooting up during COVID, it was nuts. But I had heard something about transgender coloring books at the county fair. Does anyone remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I heard about that from one of my friends, and of course I wanted to go see if this was true. Not really involved up until this point, so I go straight to the Democrat booth, no one was there. Turns out the good people of this county don't want kids being exposed to transgenderism. So happy about that, but I didn't get my book. So I went to go ask the Republicans what was going on. I had questions. I ran into Krista Knudsen. She pointed me to the BPOU meeting. I got to meet Lisa, the chair, and Representative Mike Weiner. And I started talking to them, wanted to know what was going on. And they encouraged me to become a delegate, to learn how the system works, get involved, and start just trying to make the state better. How many of you guys were at caucuses this year? Good, good, we got a lot of you. We need you, we really do. It's fantastic. If any of you guys are new, it's such an easy way to get involved, such an impactful way to make your voice heard. And I got to experience that, and I'm glad, I'm excited to be on the receiving end of your work this year. My involvement has shown me just how impactful we can be. Just by being a delegate, coming to events like these, even if you're not, you can impact your values as they go into office in St. Paul. I'm looking for the endorsement. I've been preaching the endorsement, talking about it, supporting the endorsement since I got involved for 3 years. And so on March 21st, it'll mean a lot. But thank you guys so much. I'm sure we got a lot of questions. I'm excited. These guys are excited. Let's get after it. Thank you.
So if I can ask, when you have a question, just raise your hand. My goal is that everyone who has a question they want to ask gets a chance to do so. So we'll let everyone speak before we get a second chance if we can. So we'll just start, raise your hand so you can talk to the mic.
Hi, Brett Westland, Fawn Lake Township, Todd County. Question for all three of you. Why are you running and why should we vote for you?
Well, I'm running because I believe in Minnesota. It's a little cliche, I know, but I truly do. This place is great, this place is beautiful, and in my age, even at my young age, I've seen transformation I've seen the rise of the woke, and I've seen how destructive it can be to people and to communities. I don't want that happening to me, because I still have like 60 years left to live, and I don't want that. You know, I'm sure many of you have kids, have grandkids. You don't want them to have that influence their lives either. So my fight is for the children. It's for a future. It's something that we can build on. And I believe with what the 3 years of experience that I do have and the connections that I've made, that I will be able to make effective legislative policies that can push back on woke ideology and make things more affordable for the future generations.
I'm running because I'm 100% guilty of waiting for somebody else to do it, and now it's time for me to be somebody else to do it. And born and raised here, loved growing up and seeing that, like Drew said, just kind of get taken away between overregulation and taxes and just the pure chaos that comes out of everything. My wife and I said that either we can move out of the state or do something, so that's why I'm running. And if I don't get elected, I'm still going to be involved because I've sat on the sidelines too long. And why should you vote for me? This question, I don't like that, but I had no way of asking it. Been asked that a couple times this week. I mean, I'm no better than any of these guys. They're both very solid candidates. I mean, you guys have, it's kind of sad because you have to pick one, but it's good you have 3 options. I think I stand really hard on stuff I know is right, and I have a good, I get along good with all age groups, and that helps me. And I've got a background of running a business with quite a few employees, and some of them are just warm bodies and didn't know how to do anything, and you learn really good relationship skills to not fire them on the spot, and so you can work through those problems. So, yeah, I'd say we've got 3 good choices, so it's just really who you think is going to stand hardest on what you want done for this county, for this district.
Yeah, I feel like, just with anything that we do in life, it's good to be called, and I just feel like this was really a result of prayer in our family. I've been pulled towards this for most of my life, as my family would testify, and the timing just fell into place. And so I just brought that before the Lord, and Amy and I just felt like this was the time to do it. And so I really feel called of the Lord to do this. I feel like He's been preparing me for this in a lot of ways. Why you should vote for me, I do believe that my years of public service as a physician, as a minister, has prepared me for this. And so I believe that, I do possess the skill set of being able to listen to people and ask the right questions. Sometimes it's a very important piece of being a doctor. And so I've had a privilege of being welcomed into families and listening to them. And they've invited me in, and that's a privilege for me for sure. But I think it's given me a unique perspective on this, and so I'm hoping to carry that into St. Paul as well. And so, yeah, I believe it's having those convictions of the things that, just like all of you, have been watching the news, and it seems like Minneapolis and St. Paul have been in the news for all the wrong reasons, and it's saddened me. And I love this state, just like these guys have said, and it's from that love that we really want to see things get better and right, and I believe that we can do that.
Hi, I'm Lori Bates from Staples on the Wadena County side, and the question I have for you is, the House is currently, as you know, tied. So going into this, how do you propose to work across the aisle? There's not been a lot of that done, quite frankly. So what are your strategies to work across the aisle?
I believe that, one thing that that we believe as a family is that honor doesn't mean agreement. And so we can honor people and not agree with them. I think for too long, and the temperature has been that if you disagree with me, I hate you, or you're evil. And I'm not so sure. Now, there are things worth fighting for, so don't get me wrong. And there's things that are lines in the sand that we just simply don't cross. But at the end of the day, we can actually engage with other people in a realm of honor. Where we can have a real discussion, because that's what actually opens the door for things to change. As soon as we approach somebody with dishonor, the door shuts and the conversation is over. And so I believe the strategy is to, again, listen and connect. Doesn't mean to compromise on everything, but there might be some things that we do need to compromise on. And there are certainly some things that we won't, and I'm sure we're going to cover some of those things tonight. But I believe that a strategy is to engage with honor. I believe it's possible. And it's something that I believe I have a skill set in, and that I can, again, listen to people and connect with them on a personal level. And so that's going to be required.
Well, if I am elected to go to St. Paul, I'm not going there to make enemies, but I'm not going there to make friends either. So I will go with the attitude that I was elected by this district, and what's best for them is what I'm going to be voting for. But I also stand for the first thing I said, if it goes against God's word, I will not move forward 100%. Doesn't matter, I won't do it. And that includes abortion as our constitutional rights of gun ownership, freedom of speech, freedom of church, stuff like that. I will never vote against it. Or for that, I mean, sorry. As far as working across the aisle, if you're, like you said, open for conversation, let's have it. Like, you know, we don't have to go at each other and yell at each other in their face and tell them they're stupid, but we also need to stand firm on what we know is right, what we were voting in for, what the people voted us in. And if that means being a black sheep, I guess that's what I would do, because that's what I'm supposed to do if you're voting me in, if I'm working for you.
So for reaching across the aisle, for some it's going to be hard, some even impossible. But if you look at last session, we had a tie last year as well. We still had bipartisan bills that went through, which means that there is some common ground. My strategy is to find that common ground, use it, and negotiate it, really. Like, when we talk about compromise, there's a give and a take. Something that I've seen when I started paying attention to politics after Trump got elected was there was a lot of take from the Democrats and not a give from Republicans. That needs to be equal. So anything the Democrats want to come to me, even if it's good, if I like it, that's great. My strategy, let's get a little bit more out of them. Let's see what else we can negotiate. What other ground we can gain just on anything. Whether it's taxes, whether it's rights, whether it's abortion, gun control. We have a lot of work to do, and it might take baby steps to get there. But even a baby step in the right direction is a step in the right direction. Next question.
Come on, people, questions. Danette's got one. Nope, beat you to it.
I'm Libby Peterson, I'm from Staples, the Wadena side. My question is about policy. So I feel like our representatives are supposed to educate us on policy and then hear what our thoughts are. But also we need to know what your thoughts are. So my question for you, gentlemen, tonight is thinking about current policy. What is a policy that you want to keep, and what is one that you would like to see changed?
I'm first. So policies I want to change, you name it. Just about name it. You talk about where we're at with our gun laws. You know, current gun law is duty to retreat. When we're talking about home defense, it should be at least castle doctrine. Your home is your property, your home is your castle. That's where you need to be safe. That's where you need to be protected. Make it even stand your ground, because you have a human right to defend yourself. Policies I'd want to keep, probably bonding, you know. I like the way that we fund our roads and our bridges. Essentially, this year is supposed to be a bonding year. Right now, in St. Paul, they're arguing about face coverings for ICE agents. We don't need that. But as far as changing, there's a lot more that needs changing than needs staying, in my opinion. We do have good policy, we do things, but some of it needs to get reevaluated. There's been $9 billion of daycare fraud. Trump cited $19 billion in fraud in general in Minnesota. So we need to evaluate everything that could be fraud, look for what could have happened, and change that as well. But, and long story short, infrastructure can stay, gun laws can go, abortion can go, immigration policy, we deport our illegals.
Yeah, definitely piggybacking on what Drew said, there's a ton that, is definitely not what we want, or any of us probably want, like the abortion, and then trying to eliminate or add on to gun control and make all these laws that are gonna really affect and take away your constitutional rights, and that's just a landslide that would start. My biggest policies that I would be, my top two, somebody asked me like, what are the top two that I would be most interested in? One would be healthcare, because we do foster care, and there's just a lot of stuff that can be streamlined in that with paperwork and getting, counties and the state and everybody working together and not having all these, like nobody knows what's going on. There's a lot that could be worked out with that, just in that one little area. So I know there's tons of healthcare that could be, that's a whole thing. And then the other one would be, we need to promote business, really good business. If you bring in good businesses, give them a lower tax rate, because we're, I think, first or second in the country for that corporate tax rate. Promote small business, because that's the backbone of America, literally. That would be one that I would want to promote more. Is you get businesses, and you get good people want to come to work at these good businesses. I mean, 5 Business is an amazing place. There's tons of stuff that we do here for business, and then you get people building homes and stuff that would, for the economy would start going, because they're buying homes, buying pickups, whatever else, when they're making good money, can support their families. I think the biggest one that, not the biggest, of course, abortion is huge, biggest in my mind. Constitutional rights, obviously, but as far as education, definitely needs to get back, get rid of the nonsense, the ideology, the teaching of the craziness. It needs to get back to teaching basic education and some basic life skills. Like, I know, like the work study stuff with, hey, let's learn how to weld, let's learn how to cut meat, stuff like that needs to get promoted more, so these kids can be like, hey, I kind of like this, maybe I want to pursue this trade after school, and I don't have to spend 2 years working at a job I don't really like, find out I don't like welding, or whatever it may be. And the teachers, a lot of teachers have their hands tied with all those stupid laws and regulations, and they can't tell parents about certain things and that stuff. Education needs to be revamped hardcore, so parents have rights with their kids and not getting told they can't do this and can't do that.
Well, for me, it's clearly abortion is the topic of my life, and there will not be a louder voice in St. Paul as an advocate for life. And we have right now the most permissive, liberal abortion policy in the world, and that is, it's anytime, anywhere, for any reason, and it's nauseating. And that is the number one priority in my mind and forever. It's the civil rights issue of our time. And so that is the one of my largest focuses, and will continue to be. I pledge that to you. Other things, after what they've mentioned as well, I think about anything that disincentivizes work. And so I know that even this FMLA, things that have been passed, I feel like it's been a really big problem. It's going to run out of money. It's not going to work. But it's just another big program that has handcuffed small businesses, even medium-sized, even healthcare. Not only on the just the income side and the money that it takes for a small business to provide these funds, which is crazy. But also just on the staffing side, we've seen that even in the hospitals, that we're already preparing for low staff because of people who are going to be out and taking advantage of these programs. So that's a more recent one that I would love to see go away, and if we get the majority and can do some of those kind of things, we could eliminate that really quickly. As far as something I would like to keep, I think somewhere in there we have a balanced budget amendment, I believe. Whether we actually keep it or not, I don't know. I'd like to keep that. We should, and if we don't, we should have it. So, but I think it's there, and whether it's honored or not is hard to say. But we should. Anything that is spending extra money, I am against. I think it's smaller government, less is more. So that's always been my policy.
Hey, can I add to that?
I just want to do a quick addition. You mentioned a balanced budget amendment. We do have that.
Yes.
We need to have that, and that is a good one. That's a good policy that we should keep.
Mhm.
It does force your taxes to go up, which sucks, but as long as we don't run a deficit, that's preferable. Also, since we're talking about stuff to keep, just remembered, in our state constitution, I believe it's the 16th Amendment, there's a provision in there that we regulate our environment and our ecosystems in a way that we can continue to enjoy it with hunting, trapping, snowmobiling, horseback riding, all of our outdoor activities. So I'd also keep that as well. I do like being outside, and I do like deer, even though I scream at them when they jump in front of my car.
Hi, my name is David Zanette Manzano, and I'm from Wadena. I'm a healthcare worker. And during the pandemic, I've seen some horrific things that were happening where our elder being where they couldn't see their loved ones, and people that were having babies, their loved ones couldn't even come in to see the newborn. My question would be, if we were to have that happen again, do you think frontline workers should be relieved of their jobs if they do not take the shots?
No.
No, not even a little bit.
Well, no. I might be the most qualified person in this candidate in the state to answer questions like this because I've lived it as a view. And so the answer is no. Certainly vaccines can be offered, but I love the word offered because I believe that we can all have informed decision making for us and for our families. That's true. But this idea of mandating, I believe that the Walz and Biden administration, it was misstep after misstep after misstep of how they handled this, and the mandates and the masking and the lockdowns, both in education and in businesses, were preposterous. And so no, I don't believe that government should have any role in that at all. And so it was a tough time, and hopefully we never have to go through that again. Certainly the darkest part of my practice, for sure. But we can inform. Ronald Reagan famously said, there's nothing that we can't do if the government gives us the facts, tells us what we need to do, and then get out of the way and let us have at it. One of my favorite quotes. And I believe that would have been the case with the pandemic as well. If they could have just told us what's going on and then let us make our own decisions.
Dave Nickelbrack from Wadena. What's your stance on school choice for all three of you?
Yeah, I'm a big believer in educational choice, and I've been really researching this and looking into this. I put a little bit of an asterisk next to that because we are homeschoolers, and we have to be a little bit careful in the realm of homeschooling. And so I do actually support vouchers. I think the money traveling with our children makes a whole lot of sense. The homeschooling community, though, we have to just be a little bit careful with because homeschoolers tend to bristle if there's any strings attached to that money. And so there's been, I know that I was reading about West Virginia, they had vouchers, they've been doing sort of an educational savings account that they could do. The money would go with the homeschoolers. The problem is that there were strings attached. And as soon as we do that, and there's markers and there's standardized testings and things that are attached to that, homeschoolers don't like that. We'd be in that category as well. And so they worked really hard doing kind of a carve out that if you don't accept the money, then you also don't have the strings attached. And so it takes a little bit of some legal dangling with that. So if you send all of the money with all the homeschoolers, then that oversight, that government involvement is connected. And so we just have to be a little bit careful. So I like the idea, and I like the idea of the funding and allowing kids to travel and to find the schools. I'm a big believer in free enterprise, and I believe our schools will be better if they compete against each other. Like, I want your child in part of my school. Guess what you have to do then? You have to be excellent. And I believe that that's the American way, and that tends to work really, really nice. And so I love the idea of schools competing against each other to create an excellence. And if there are teachers there that are tenured, but they're horrible teachers, I'm sorry, that's not going to fly when you're trying to actually get and woo children to your school. So I like that idea. I would just be a little careful with the homeschooling side of things.
I don't know a ton about the ESA where the money follows the child. I know enough that, and talked to enough people, and my wife and I included, that we definitely would agree with to where the parents want their children to go to school, and the money should follow them. And I don't know all the logistics of it. I haven't studied it a lot, just learning on it more now. But as of right now, it's a great idea in my opinion.
Right, so for education, big fan of competition, athlete, love competition. It takes competition to make you stronger. So I'm a fan of school choice, I'm a fan of school vouchers. I'm a fan of, taking the homeschoolers, getting money from the state. And I guess we can argue about this later, Dr. Clausen, but if the state is going to give you money, you should adhere to their standards. It is the state who does set education standards, which would be us at the legislature. We'd have to argue with the Department of Education, but that's okay, we can defund them. If they screw up. I want stricter literacy rates, just in general. I look online or I do my research and I see a 52% graduating literacy rate at grade level. We cannot thrive as a community if we can't read. And I'm not necessarily known for being well read, even though I do read decently well. But literacy is the most important thing for your knowledge. You can write something down, you can retain information. You have to be able to do that. And if you want money, then you need to provide results. I even wrote notes on this. It's better results with our education means you deserve more money. And if you deserve more money, you can be more competitive and provide better education to our students. Thank you.
So the concern would be, of course, with homeschoolers of who's setting the standards. And so that's the problem. And so if we're in a blue state and the blue state is setting the standards, that's not going to fly with the homeschooling community. And so again, I think getting the government completely out of that is really what homeschoolers want. And being a homeschooling family, we wouldn't take the money and we wouldn't take the strings. That's what we would choose. And I think that's very important to a lot of homeschoolers.
And that's the competition. Right. Yep, and that's how it should be.
Okay, quick question. I saw this happen last legislative session. Big old omnibus bill comes through, right? We want to get rid of them, but they're there, and we're not in control, so we don't get to do that. Say you get down there, work for 5E really hard, you get money for hospitals, you get money for schools, you get, new water systems in and all kinds of stuff. You just got all this great stuff. And then in this omnibus bill, all of a sudden there's funding for Planned Parenthood. How do you vote? Oh, and then one more thing. Today, Board of Education was in committee asking for more money. The Minnesota Board of Education in 2026 has 476.2 full-time employees. That comes to a cost, just for the employees, $53.26 million. So fighting the Minnesota Department of Education, that's going to be a tough road to hoe because they got a lot of people that want to keep those $106,000 jobs.
Fair enough. Well, to answer your question about the omnibus bills, obviously I don't like it. And it really goes to the core of what we're doing there. The core of what we're doing there is debate, healthy debate. That's what's made our country great. And so we can actually look at each topic, and we can discuss them, and we can debate them. And of course, the workaround is you just throw it all into one big pile, and you say, here, let's just try to get a bunch of stuff passed at once. Well, I think that goes against really the heart of what Americanism is. And so I want to be able to voice my opinion on each line of the bill. And so to answer your obvious question is, Planned Parenthood? No, the answer is no. That's one of those lines. I wouldn't go to St. Paul to compromise on that at all. And so if there are those things, those poison pills that are in the bill, my answer would be a hard no. And I would want to be able to debate things. We just talked about this the other day. My experience has been with Obamacare. You know, when that was passed in the middle of the night as this giant pack of papers that nobody actually read. And then we had the fallout over the next 4 to 5 years in medicine of trying to figure out what they signed. And it's all because it's just sort of hidden in there. There's a political reason for doing that. I get it. I know why they did it, because they wanted to push it through. But that doesn't help anybody. And it actually hurt a lot of people. And they've been spending the last several decades trying to correct these things that were completely wrong in Obamacare that completely didn't work. That's just one example. And so, you know, I'm assuming we're all going to agree that we don't like omnibus bills for sure. But to answer your question specifically, yes, if there's a poison pill in there, that's it. It's poison.
Yeah, then short answer is no, I wouldn't vote for it, because if I got voted in by 5P, you know where my stance is biblically, and I'm not going to be for it. And so that's where I would be at. I would not vote for it if that if abortions in there or anything that go against constitutional rights. I wouldn't do it. And if that made people not like me, well then you knew what you voted for when you voted for me. As far as the Department of Education, I think that's also part of the Republican stance, trying to reduce that rate. I can't remember the wording. And I'm pretty sure that we could do it with a whole lot less than 476 people on payroll. I mean, again, education is not my forte. I'm learning as I go, researching some stuff, and there's a brain rot at the end of the day when I read some of this stuff because it's so much. But yeah, no, 476 people to do is ridiculous. We could do it way less than that, and maybe there's even a way to subcontract it out and get it for way cheaper because you're bringing in competition to get that job, and they would be held to a standard. If they don't meet that standard, that contractor.
Right, first for the poison pill omnibus bill. First answer is no. However, if we can get the county, if we can get our counties to ban abortion, like we can make Wadena County a dry county if we wanted to. So if we could get our county commissioners on board, maybe we could work something with them where we could get the funding and keep abortion out of our district. If not, we'll just keep the answer as no. As for the Board of Education, was it 253 million?
No, 53, hang on, whoops.
Oh, $52.6 million, okay. Well, not as bad as 253 million. Still a lot of money. That's a lot of money, that's a lot of jobs, that's a lot of people. But if you keep increasing your taxes, eventually you're gonna run out of blood for your turnip. You only squeeze so much.
My answer to Krista, she was in conference, we were texting back and forth, and I says, how about we just get rid of the Department of Education, divide all that money up between the schools and let them sink or swim.
It'd be better that way. That's the goal. So it always is there. And so yeah, you can try to whittle it away, and Trump has done that a little bit through Doge and some things. But it's got to be bigger pieces. And I think that can happen. I think that's really important that it would happen.
My name is Larry Sandberg. I'm from Bertha. I'm a huge advocate of 2A, and I haven't heard anything yet on the Second Amendment rights and stuff, and especially what's going on with our governor and some of the bills that he's trying to pass now. Where do you guys think of that?
100% constitutional right, and it can't be infringed upon, and anybody that's trying to put laws in otherwise is wrong and it needs to stop.
I believe the wording in the Second Amendment ends with shall not be infringed, so we can start with that. Second of all, I don't know if you were here earlier, I don't know if you walked in late, I did mention Castle Doctrine, stand your ground, very pro that. Minnesota has a duty to retreat policy, which is, it goes against human nature entirely. You have a right to defend yourself with whatever means necessary. No one can demand that you lay down and die for any reason. But for guns, yeah, keep your guns. Don't tell me what you have, just keep them.
Yeah, of course, a big defender of the Second Amendment rights, and I think there's even a bigger cultural piece to this too. I'll just add that the goal is to any time that there's a shooting or something that happens, that it's about gun control. But really, the truth of the matter is that we have a mental health crisis in our country. And we need to address that issue. It's not the gun, it's the person holding the gun. And we need to always stay focused on that. And so the confusion of conversation is to try to do smoke and mirrors and make it about the guns. But the reality is that there's hurting people, and we need to address that first and foremost.
One announcement before we go to the next question. There is coffee and hot water for hot chocolate and tea, some lemonade and water, and a few cookies left. And this isn't that formal, so you can get up and use that. And if you need to, the bathrooms are around that, just out the door too, so.
So, my name is Mike Axbeck from Rowersville. I sat in the back row, by the way, just so that way I wouldn't ask questions, and then found out it was Mike. So my wife and I, we have almost 140 employees. Blessed or cursed, however you want to take it. Family medical leave, earned, safe, and sick, paid family medical leave, the new overtime rules. Jonathan, you hinted at it already, and honestly, I hate to do this to you, with all due respect. I'd rather hear from them first and go back to you. Yep. And I would love to comment on this because I feel like an expert in it. It's the last thing in the world I want to be an expert in.
So are you asking how we feel on the new leave? Okay, yeah, it's a terrible program. And from what I understand, it could have been outsourced to private contractors and been way less, and then people that wanted to take it could take it. The people, like I know one lady that she already had paid leave for that stuff, and then it made it worse for her with this new program, and she absolutely hates it. And I know a lot of people hate it because you're just being forced to pay for something you shouldn't have to. And so absolutely no, it shouldn't be. And I guess I'm not familiar with the overtime thing you're talking about. What is?
So the new overtime laws changed. They changed drastically. Now so you had to get a 30-minute break after 8 hours. Now it's down to 6 hours. And in certain situations, like in my world, we have drivers. That means they got to stop and whatever else. We can't do that in our situation. So they all of a sudden have to send 2 drivers to do things and stuff. That's the overtime part. That's actually probably the most minuscule part of the entire thing. The rest of it, the family medical leave, the paid family medical leave, that's 22 weeks a year off. 22 weeks paid a year off. You could do 12 for yourself and 12 for Joe Biden if you wanted to. It's a very terrible, terrible situation. And I was down at the Capitol last week, and I'm rambling here, so I was told not to. Where is she? Right there. You said don't do this, and I'm doing it. I was at the Capitol last week, and I was literally told by members down there to let it go bankrupt. And I hate to say this, we can't, because then I'm going to go bankrupt first, or the gas station is going to go bankrupt, or the hardware store is going to go bankrupt, or whatever it is. And it's not just us. It's the cities that can't afford it. It's the counties that can't afford it. It's the schools that can't afford it. This is beyond terrible. And the Democrats are digging their heels in on this unless there's a Republican trifecta. That's the only way to switch it. That's the absolute only way to switch those 3 items. But those 3 items need to be torn apart and literally Nancy Pelosi torn apart and discarded.
No, I 100% agree with you on that. I know I just read today about Wadena County is looking at 13% some property tax increase because of the city not being able to afford this, the paid leave and stuff like that. So it's absurd, and it needs to be reversed. And as far as like government getting involved with employee stuff like that, yeah, there's, you know, like we ran guys, but we paid them for lunch. So they, you know, we paid them 12 hours a day. And they just, you know, they still have their lunch, but we pay them so much. And employees do that kind of stuff, so they can work out their own stuff. They don't need the government telling them how to do the overtime, how to set all this other stuff, because if you don't like the job, you're gonna find a different one that treats you better. And that's just the reality of it. People move on with the job. So it'll wean itself out. The government needs to get their hands off it and stand in lane with all of that stuff and repeal this paid leave, because from what I understand, it'd be way cheaper with the private sector doing it.
First of all, I appreciate your rambling. It was great. I don't apologize for it. Secondly, either way, I don't want you to. So, what I can tell you from my experience as a blue-collar worker, I used to get paid out for my vacation hours that I didn't use up to after 40-hour weeks. That was a nice little Christmas bonus for me. I didn't get, that ceased when they passed Emergency Safe and Sick Time, or ESST. I don't know all the laws about ESST, but I'm familiar with paid family medical leave. Have you lost any employees yet?
So we run about 30% understaffed right now, and every single day we're about 20% short on employees, 20% every single day. And I try to tell everybody we're a little company, and we're probably bigger than what we probably should be, but at the same time, 20% is a huge number.
Yeah.
And then as soon as you go into take that and put it into the government, or I'm getting in trouble.
Yeah.
As soon as you take that and put that into the government setting, you know, the school setting, you put it into the snowplow drivers. You know, we live in Minnesota. It snows. You might have to plow snow for 16 hours. You can't afford to do
Yeah,
that.
I'm going to cut you off right there, because you brought up something that I need to address. Anyone familiar with New York City? I hope I'm pointing in the right direction. Zoran Mamdani, the communist, could not get his own citizens to shovel their snow because of bad policy. Paid family medical leave is going to do the exact same thing. It's going to do it to your company eventually. As long as you have good employees, which I'm assuming you do. It's this area. We have great people in this area. We have people who work hard. I've worked with them. As far as I've seen, I haven't seen anyone abuse paid family medical leave, but I've heard rumors. I've heard rumors about it from the cities, from the Democrats, who use it when they do their activism. Now that's just a rumor, but if you get paid to not work and advance your political agenda, why not do it? It's not a good thing. And I'd go further on the tear it to shreds like Nancy Pelosi, so I'd say nail it to the wall and light it on fire. It is awful. It'll burn down our businesses. It'll burn down your business eventually. You can't, I said this before, you can't squeeze blood from a turnip. This is exactly what paid family medical leave will do. 22 weeks is too much. I understand the intentions, but it's got to be feasible. We did not correctly analyze the hazards that would bring when they brought it forward. I will remove that if given the chance, by the way. First thing, if possible.
And sir, you weren't rambling. You had a question, you kept going on. I've had people stand up there and it's like, what's your point? No, you had one big question. That was good. So.
Yeah, I'm confident that it will die on its own merits. However, what you're saying is, in the meantime, you know, it's crisis mode. And I can give you a little perspective from Lakewood Health System that, you know, because they're a much bigger scale. But you know, nobody got raises because of that. And that's fine, except for the fact that the cost of living is going up, and so that hurts. And the reason is because they had to kick in so much money. That was the raise. Is they had to kick in so much money for this. Lakewood's going to be fine. The problem is these smaller businesses that, you know, this is the margin is much smaller, and so I feel your pain in that. And yeah, it was just a bad concept. It's buying votes. Let's be honest. These are all these freebies that make us supposedly feel good about stuff, so that we would vote for whoever gave it to us. And so I just know that we just got an email from Lincoln Health System that just said, we're gonna have staffing issues because we have already hundreds of applications for this, and we don't know what we're going to do. And so that is a problem when it comes to nurses and physicians and staffing and those kind of things. That becomes more of a public health crisis. So there's layers.
The paid Family Medical Leave Act, I don't have the mic here. The paid Family Medical Leave Act was $8 million in debt on day one. So put that in perspective. And even Lakewood, in order to offset it, what do? Up the rates. I have to go and up my rates. Everybody has to go and up the rates, and then we all get mad as taxpayers and go, how can you keep on upping these rates? How come it's that or we close? What would you like? I promise to be quiet for a while.
Okay, going back, excuse me, Steve Peterson right here from Hewitt. Going back to the open enrollment, what I've seen over the years is 2 doggone many buses going on my place. You know, so that's the flip side of it, and that is costing us. Yeah, I understand the open competition and everything like that, but for a while our district only went to the edge and just beyond the district. Then they got another school district going right through, you know, so then they all started going through. So, and Mike knows all about this. He does it, but he's forced to really. And the other thing, the Castle Doctrine, be very careful with that, because when you're talking about personal security, if you've taken a carry class, they'll tell you, and then also I've worked in security, that it's flight, hide, fight. You do not want to fight, first of all. That's the last thing to do.
With the open enrollment, again, education's not, I understand what you're saying, because like, I think even when I was still in school, they were going all the way from Walker, from Nevis to Walker to get people and stuff, and it definitely costs a lot of money. I don't know the science behind, I mean, they wanted the money at the school, obviously, for the students, and that's, I'm sure why they did it. They would keep some of the schools open, because without open enrollment, I know Burndale would be closed, because I think it's 40-some% of the students are open enrolled in Burndale. 50? Yeah. So it's quite high, so that I'm sure that has a lot to do with it. I don't know, I personally have to research more to know more about it. I can't give you a good answer on one way or the other on it. I know it does cost money because, you know, fuel's not cheap and bus drivers aren't cheap and everything like that, so. And then, was there a question on the council law that I missed, or was it just? Comment. Okay, sounds good.
There's a good point about the buses. I'm sure that when we look at that in legislation, we can take that into consideration and analyze it. And I also like that you bring up the carry class, because those are, I've taken it. It's good knowledge to have.
Yeah, not much else to add on that, other than, you know, I still would want to err on the side of freedom, and the ability to choose, and there's always going to be a price tag connected to that as well. So those are situations that have to be worked out.
So I'm wondering, when you get down to the Capitol, you're going to hear again and again that you have to be a team player. I want to know what your line in the sand is and when you're willing to stand alone.
Well, at the end of the day, I am your representative, and so that's the short answer to your question is I don't stand alone. I stand for you, and so if there's gamesmanship happening there, and there's some things that would disagree with the way that you guys feel, the way that you stand. My posture would be to come back to you. We would have a meeting like this, and we would talk about those things so that I'm representing you well. At the end of the day, I'm a Republican. At the end of the day, of course, I'm standing on biblical principles, and we won't budge on those things. Those are easy decisions. It's those other things that I might need your opinion on. And the best representatives are the ones that go back to their district. That's how the founding fathers had set it up to be, that we go back to our district and that we are engaged in the process with you so that I know how to represent you. And so that's the best answer to the question is obviously there are hypotheticals on the things that we might be talking about, but when in doubt, or when I'm concerned about how you would feel, I better find out. Better find out how you feel. That's my role there. And then I'm going to be a representative of you the best that I can.
As a team player, I mean, I would of course want to work with people to get the best result for 5B. And if that turns out good, and like we can work together, no matter if it's either Republicans or Democrat, and we can get what's best for 5B without going against, like I said, the principle. And you can 5B from the majority of people want it, like you're not gonna make everybody happy, it's impossible. You're gonna have people that don't like something you do, and the majority might like it, whatever that is. But if it's going to be going against the people voting in, like if they are just totally against whatever it might be, you know, money going to a different county when we need it for something that's really, or whatever, then I'm going to stand alone. I'm going to stand for the people who voted me in, and that's just the reality because I'm working for you. And if, again, if they don't like me, then that's their problem, not mine.
So I do plan on working with the GOP, however, I will stand alone if I need to. It's not that hard, you just stand, right? When it comes to bad policy is bad policy. So if the GOP works with the Democrats on an absolutely awful policy, but they're like, hey, we can get some funding, or we can get a nuclear plant that dumps sewage in the river, in the Mississippi River, and poisons it for everyone. Like, well, we could make money in that energy, but we can't. And poison the river. It's a kind of an extreme hypothetical, but if you take something like that, if it causes a lot of damage to the state, to 5B, like 5B, even if it benefits one section over 5B and we get nothing, I have to say that. And I like how Dr. Clausen said he doesn't stand alone, he stands with everyone. And that's good, and it's true. Metaphorically it is true, but down at the Capitol it is different, and you might feel alone even though you're not. And so it does take something to stand up and stand alone, and I appreciate basically your words for that, because that's a good thing to always remember, is that we always, all three of us, have all of you guys back home who care about us and want us to succeed and wants to succeed for you, because we want you to succeed as well.
Okay, back here, this is Vicki. What political person do you look up to and would be a mentor for you? Then another question I have. Okay. You're in charge.
Thank you, baby. Yep, we'll get right back to you. Mine's pretty quick. Mine, the guy who brought me in was Mike Weiner. He's been a mentor to me since day one, since my first BPOU meeting. I met up with him. I asked him to the bar for drinks so I could talk philosophy and I could talk about Plato. I wanted to talk about Republican utopia. And he indulged me. I talk a lot about Roman history. I'm a nerd about it. I get made fun of. But I was able to talk to him. I've helped him out on his campaign. We did a little podcast stunt together about Pints and Politics. It's on Rumble. Poor quality, great conversation. But absolutely, I look up to him specifically. I've met other great people in politics. I've met your younger brother in Arizona. He was a fantastic mentor when he dragged me down there. So through my experience, I have not just one, but many mentors.
I have been talking with Krista Knudsen, and she's very knowledgeable in helping me. And then also Mike and Mike Meyer, they've been very helpful in stuff that obviously this is a lot to take in. So they've been very helpful with a lot of that.
Yeah, I think Mike has been very kind to all of us, showing us the ropes and been very appreciative of him for sure. I was in a hot tub one time with Paul Gazelka, and he had just tried to pass the marriage amendment between one man and one woman, and it failed by 0.5%, 1%, something like that. And I remember talking to him, and I looked at him and I said, Mike, you have to be like devastated. And he was so calm and said, you kind of win some and you lose some, that kind of thing. And I wanted to like shake it, like, no, you should be like in tears over this. And what I learned from him is that he was measured, and he knows that there are battles that are won and sometimes there are battles that are lost, but they're all worth fighting. And I remember just sitting there with him in awe thinking like, you are in the right place at the right time. I was so moved by his measured response. And so he's been a friend to us and to our family, really outside of politics, more from a ministry standpoint, actually. And so I've gotten to know him, and I certainly honor him and his advice that he's been giving us as well. My political hero is Ronald Reagan, however. I love him.
Okay, I'll make this real short because there's other people I want to talk to. Can you tell me an example of when you stood firm on a difficult issue?
Yeah, I have a great example. I was on a community health committee through the hospital, and it was I just want to be respectful. It was a woke leaning committee. I'll put it that way. And so I purposely went on the committee because I thought it needed a conservative voice. And again, I believe that we were able to have real discussions in an honoring way, and I was very proud of that because I know that the other people on the committee did not see the world through the same lens that I did. However, I was able to express my issues with some of the policies that they were pitching and proposing, and I believe that we actually had kind of a meeting of the minds which was healthy, and it was good for our community. And really eliminated a lot of some of that woke ideology that was starting to kind of creep in. And so I was proud of that, and I stood my ground, and I asked a lot of questions to try to get their perspective, and then offered my perspective as well. And so that was kind of a win. I think it was a win for our community, it was a win for our health system as well. And so there's a way to engage, but I think the key is that I engaged. Because I sort of could have just gone in a fetal position and say this is just the way things are going, and it wouldn't have been a committee necessarily that I loved or would have drawn me, but I felt the importance of being that voice. And so I think that's why we're all here tonight, honestly, is that we have to be willing to engage. And so I love the question, and it has to be those moments where we say, okay, I think our voice does matter, and people need to listen to us. You know, I said this at the beginning, his ways are higher than our ways. And I don't believe we necessarily have to shout about that, I just know that it's true. And when we know that, and we're convicted that our country is built on Judeo-Christian principles, and they're solid, and they worked, the Democrats have had their chance, and it's not working. It's not working. And so that's why we can go and say, we actually have data that supports the fact that your policies are hurting people. And I think that we can go there with an assurance that really what the Heavenly Father has given us as a plan is a good one. And because of that, we can connect to His ways that way. But we have to be a voice. We have to be willing to say, this is what I believe, and we believe that this is the best. And so I believe I can be that voice.
I haven't had a lot of experience in forums and stuff like that, but I know that personally, standing firm on my faith in my Lord after I got saved at 27, it definitely put an effect with my sister, because she is definitely opposite of that. I think every road leads to God, and I stood against that, and it's definitely affected our relationship. Sadly, we're not very close anymore. But I had to stand for God on that. So hopefully we can redeem that at some time. Yeah. But that's and then with working with different contractors, when you're trying to do stuff the right way, they want you to do it the wrong way just because it gets more footage in and you can make money faster, and make money for them faster when you're subbing out of them, and I wouldn't do it. And definitely had many conversations with some foremans about how I'm not doing it that way. And they wanted me to, and I just wouldn't do it. And there's a couple times we lost the job over it, but it was worth it.
I suppose, so standing on a difficult decision, I guess in a way I haven't, but I also haven't really had to. There's no need. I've always been able to find some way to make it work where both sides can, at worst for me that both sides can end up happy. Or not happy, but that we can move forward. I can talk about I have woke friends. We talk about these things. We know we disagree. I haven't been shot, which is great, but ultimately, there's usually a solution, and sometimes it is you need to get out of here. But ultimately, I can maybe mention COVID, but my employers during COVID, they basically said, you need to do this, you need to be in charge, and if I thought it was BS, I was the only guy in charge, so I would say no. Other than that, I haven't really had to make anything too different. I haven't had too much opposition in my decisions.
I understand that all candidates are anti-abortion. However, if I could just find out from each of you, does no abortion include also rape or incest and also the health of the mother?
So, abortion is medically defined, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, as a procedure that ends pregnancy and ends the life of the child at the same time. So as far as abortion policy for me goes, one, it does not include rape, and it does not include the physical health of the mother. Incest, if you're consensually doing an incest, that's on you. Sorry. Child shouldn't have to pay for that one. But I'll give you rape, and I'll give you the physical health of the mother. Mother doesn't need, she's not required to die. However, there is a point in the pregnancy, I believe it's 16 weeks where it's viable. I'm not sure. There's a point in the pregnancy where that kid can live outside the womb with medical help. And if the kid can live outside the womb, how about we and the mother wants to end her pregnancy, how about we terminate the pregnancy and have the kid live and do all medical care that child needs so it can live. And in a way, that's my baby step on abortion. Step in the right direction. Any step.
It's an interesting compromise.
If the kid can live, the kid lives. That's my path on that one, actually.
For me, on abortion, it's not healthcare, it's murder. And unfortunately, the evil act of rape happens, and that needs to be dealt with. But I mean, my wife told me to keep it PG on what she had some of that stuff, but no, it's not the kid's fault. And it was made in the image of God, and it's super unfortunate how the baby came about, but it should be 100% illegal, no matter how the baby came about. And my wife and I had a discussion when we first got married and having kids, and she told me straight out, if there's a choice between the baby and me, keeping the baby, it's not even a question. And so that's how I have lived my life since, because that's just what we do. Yeah, and that's just my opinion on it, and I believe that that's. Yeah.
So mother's health is still, abortion is no.
I'm 100% against abortion no matter what, and I won't change on that. And people can disagree with me, that's fine.
So the reality is, when we talk about the mother's health, so I did OB for 15 years. So again, I have a unique perspective on this. It's a talking point that really has no bearing. And the reason is if the mother is in viable age and there's a problem, there's a complication, then a C-section is an option, and a C-section is often the quickest, easiest way to save the mother and the baby. If the mother is in trauma or is dying, the baby is already dead. I mean, the baby can't survive outside of the mother's womb, and so the argument is somewhat moot, because the child is a child, and so the life begins at conception, and that's just what I believe 100%. And so, again, there's a personal view, sometimes there's a political view. And the opposing side wants to talk about the health of the mother, they want to talk about rape and incest. These are minuscule numbers compared to the number of children who are being aborted. And so this is just a side discussion. And the main discussion needs to be is, when does life begin? That's just it. And so the Democrats and the liberals are going to try to turn the conversation to a lot of other things. You may have noticed the new buzzword now is reproductive rights. That's a new buzzword. Well, I'm not against women reproducing. The problem is, after they've reproduced, there's a third person. There's another person involved. And this is a human citizen of the United States that deserves our protection. And that it's true whether this child was created through rape or incest, this is still a child protected as a citizen of the United States. And so I will be the loudest voice to protect that life. We just, if you pass the microphone around a Democratic convention, you're going to get a lot of different answers as far as when does life begin. And so the truth of the matter is, most of them say they don't know. And so they asked Obama that question, he said it's beyond his pay grade. Honestly, I think that's, I'm not being disrespectful, that's a disgusting answer. Because he's admitting the fact that he actually might be condoning murder. If he doesn't know, well then he's saying that he's passing legislation that could possibly be killing a child. That's not who Americans are, and I believe that I would carry a unique perspective on this because I believe, I feel so strongly about this, that I don't really even believe that people know what an abortion is, or what they're voting for. And if I go to St. Paul, I'm going to be the loudest voice, and I'm going to bring posters. I'm being serious. I'm going to bring posters, and I'm going to explain medically what it is that they're actually voting for. And then if they still decide to vote for that, that's on their conscience. But we actually have to explain to them what this is about. And so I don't want to ramble about this, but I have studied William Wilberforce. I don't know if you know who William Wilberforce is, but he was an abolitionist that ended the slave trade in the early 1800s. He did it in his lifetime. And he had two strategies. And one strategy was to bring the elite and the people in power and show them the slave ships. When the slave ship came in and the slaves were offloaded, he would bring them onto the ships and he would show them the corpses, he would show them the feces, he would show them the blood, and he would make them smell it. That's what he wrote, I made them smell it. And then he would, his second strategy was to change the hearts of the people. Because if you get 55% of the people that are now against abortion, guess what? Politicians will fall in line and they'll listen. And so that's what we need. We need a voice that's going to make them smell it. That's how strongly I feel about this. Go ahead.
I just have one thing to add on to that. I watch the House YouTube channel all the time, so I watch the sessions. Actually, when I'm sorry. What? I didn't hear what you said.
You didn't have the talking stick.
Oh, damn it. They do know what they're doing. They brought up an amendment to the bill that would require that the baby get an anesthetic so they wouldn't feel the pain. Just still abortion, you know, as it is, but that was just one point of it. And they would not pass that. So they know exactly what they're doing.
I think from what I understand, with the rape and the incest, it's like less than 1% of all abortions. And so it really comes down to, I know people like to throw it out there, and it's evil, but it's less than 1%. And I think last year in Minnesota it was over 16,000 reported abortions. And it's absurd, it's evil, and I think it comes down to sometimes people just want to, I don't know, if they're narcissists or whatever, just think, oh, this is what I want to do. I don't know why they're so happy about killing somebody, it doesn't make sense to me. But the rape and incest is really a viewpoint, as evil as it is, it's hardly anything, and it's still not the baby's fault. They didn't choose that, and there's case after case of mothers keeping the child, and the baby, or the person does great, and the mother loves him and keeps him, and then you could also do, adoption. I mean, there's just so many other ways to do it. Education for the men and the women after if they do get pregnant. I mean, obviously the best thing would be one wife, one woman marriage. We wouldn't have near the problem if they weren't just out freelancing sex all the time, but education does that. I know one lady personally that's had an abortion and it's been years and years and years, and she still suffers from that mentally. And so the education of knowing that yes, that child is alive from conception, and that child has a heartbeat, and that child is individually God, that would help. and the imaging machines, they could see the baby moving, like that would be huge for a lot of these mothers, and just the support that they need to know that they're not gonna have their families mad at them, hopefully, or just allow that, but then it's
Okay, the talking stick lady.
I got the talking stick now. So, I am very conservative. I certainly don't think abortion is right. However, I would like to talk about the children of who aren't wanted. So, let's say abortion's illegal, but I don't want this kid. I don't believe that children should be abused, neglected, passed around from foster care, abused in foster care. I feel like they should have our children should be first and foremost. Okay? So, what kind of plans, so you say no abortion, that's, really, truly the best answer. However, what are we gonna do with these children? Can we lower the cost of adoptions? If you wanna adopt a child, there's a lot of great people out there. They don't make a ton of money, but they budget, they feed their kids, they always put their family first. They can definitely handle another kid, but they can't handle $50,000, $60,000, $80,000 pop just to adopt one. Is there a way that we can make good people who aren't super wealthy be able to adopt children so they have a consistent, loving home for their entire childhood, and they don't get passed around? You hear horror stories of children who are passed around in foster cares, who are abused. That's not right, because people do get paid to take in foster care kids. But how do we help those kids who are unwanted, or who have parents who cannot take care of them?
You brought up a great point on the cost. And the reason the cost is so high is because it's been dictated by the government, right? Sounds like government regulation. And we have an over-regulation problem in government.
Sounds like they're for sale, and that's not what we either.
Yeah, they shouldn't be for sale either. We should have a vetting process where we find good families for these kids. And this might be a little bit hard to do, but I think we should reach out to our churches and they could help out as well.
Yes.
Churches are the biggest charity. Christian churches are the most charitable people on the planet. All of us care about kids and raising them and keeping them alive. So I guess my plan is I want to work with churches to help find good families, to help protect these kids, to give them good homes, and even take some in for themselves. I know the Catholics have monasteries, maybe a little extreme, but it could work out. And also, the Catholics, pretty conservative. So we might even be helping raise more conservatives, which would be good for us, because we do society better. But as far as it goes, yeah, it shouldn't cost $80,000 to adopt a kid. That's more than your average salary, almost double. So, yeah, we can work on regulation. It shouldn't be that regulated. We have CCP. They should be vetting. We can have a psychologist if we need. But as far as the plan goes, less regulation, work with churches. If the kid lives, it lives, and let's get him into a good home.
I agree with Drew on the church. That we're called to take care of the widows and the orphans, and that's what we should be doing. And I think there's a lot of good churches that do it, and there's a lot of good programs that are Christian based, and there's a lot of good people that just like to help with children. The adoption cost is very high. We looked into it in the past, and it just wasn't affordable for us. So we looked at foster care for kids, and it just didn't work out because of the time of work and stuff. But yeah, as far as the government side of it, in my opinion, if I was going to be paying taxes for something, I'd much rather pay taxes for that, take away the people on welfare that are just living on welfare, don't need to be on welfare, and use that to take care of these children and help families with the adoption cost. And I think there should be some vetting for sure, because you always have the issue if it's really cheap, you know that somebody's going to buy that child and put them in sex trafficking, because that's a very prevalent thing, and it will happen, and it happens in many other countries already, and it'll happen. It probably is happening here. I mean, I know sex trafficking's happening here, but if it was cheap enough, I mean, they would buy them just for that reason. So there has to be a huge vetting process with that. But yeah, definitely, I would much rather pay taxes for something like that than the welfare and all the nonsense that goes along with it. And you're right, they need to be taken care of because they're our future. I mean, like my life's half over. I mean, so they're our future. All these kids, 16,000, over 16,000. And if you look at economical, then you got people paying taxes and working and providing income and making families. And like you said, then you got more conservatives hopefully getting roads. So yeah, it's a great idea. And how you do that with enough legislation on conservative side to get rid of the stupidness of the taxes or the welfare, in my opinion, is ridiculous. As much as we spend on welfare is just absurd and people will live on it, it's ridiculous. But you know, but the church and people, like you said, is a perfect place also.
Yeah, we can pull that funding from the Planned Parenthood subsidies too.
Yeah.
Amen.
So we're making an assumption that if all of a sudden there's a run on kids, that they're all going to be unwanted. And I don't think that's true. I think as again, going back to Wilberforce, if we can change the hearts of the people are the moms that are having these children. And so there's been a cultural shift that has taken place where a child is determined to be worth living whether they're wanted or not. I don't understand how that's happened in our society. They're all wanted and they're all God's children. And so I think if we have a run on kids because abortion is so low, that's a great problem to have. And I think it is the moment of the church to rise up to its highest point it's ever been, where we're funding it, we're accepting them. And this notion that an adoption costs $120,000, it's like that just feels insane to me. I don't get it. Who's getting that money? Lawyers? And I don't know who's profiting from this. And so that needs to be explored. And I told my wife if I ran for president someday, that would be her first lady job. Like, find out why adoption is so expensive. Because it feels insane. That feels fixable to me. And so we just need to figure out where that money is going, and we need to streamline that and get these kids into good homes.
Yep, we got a guy in the back. Sorry.
All right, EJ Newer, Leaford Township, Wyvern. So my question is, in your opinion, what are the top 3 concerns of the average local American?
You got the money. You need to come to right away. Cost of living, for sure. The access and affordability of healthcare, and I would say government regulation. I know Trump just passed one of the biggest deregulation bills. I don't know if it was a bill or an executive order, but to the tune of $1.3 trillion. But that's what I've been hearing mostly as we've been knocking on doors and listening to people is the number of agencies that are involved in people's lives is crippling. And of course, I think all 3 of those things that I just said are completely tied together. And so I just talked to a farmer who said that he deals with 17 agencies to just run his farm. And that feels crippling to me. I couldn't even get my mind around that. And so I believe it's the everyday aspect of raising a family and working through the barriers that our government, I think less is more. And so if people ask me, what more can government do, my answer is less. Just less. And just get out of the way.
So from the people I've talked to in the last month, depends on the age. Younger people in their 20s, worried about buying a house, how they can pay for a house. Elderly people, getting rid of tax on Social Security, and then how are they going to be able to keep their home with the high property taxes? I talked to one lady who's thinking she might have to get rid of her home because her husband got sick, and her taxes doubled in how she can't afford it. So now she's got to sell her house or do something, and so that's the big concern with that group. And then I think everybody I talked to pretty much was the fraud and the taxes raising because of fraud. It might take a couple years to catch up, but it'll come. They're going to push it off somehow if they can, and they're going to add it on to something. So really, those are 3 big ones: all the taxation, regulation, and then the farmers were the where they're, some farmer owns 500 acres in different counties, well, their taxes have gone crazy this last year, they're way up. So those are the three or four major ones that I talk to people about.
Right. So if I separate government regulation and taxes, that's two. But those two go hand in hand all the time. That's the number two. Number one is affordability. Younger people can't buy homes. Older people struggle with their Social Security because Social Security is running out and they're getting taxed on it, which makes no sense. It already comes out of your taxes. You shouldn't be taxed twice on something they're already being taxed on. But affordability across the board, 100%. Living, cost of groceries, gas just went up, so people are going to start complaining about that too. So number one is affordability. Number two is regulation. Starting a business for people looking to start a business. Maintaining your business for people who have businesses or maintaining them. Taxes, property taxes for people who own homes, people who rent. Your rent goes up when your property taxes go up. Number three, crime. Specifically immigration crime right now. That's where you get your fraud. That's where you get the waste. That's where you get shootings in the street and young ladies getting stabbed on the bus. People care about crime. They want to feel safe in their homes and in their communities. I don't know if I have a full rant on crime, but immigration is the big one right now. We had Operation Metro Surge. People freaked out about that across the state. But we found out about the fraud. Everybody was mad. The Democrats were mad that we found out. We were mad that we found out. Different versions of mad. But essentially, if you go down to Minneapolis, St. Paul, even St. Cloud's kind of bad. I was in Fargo last weekend. Fargo was getting pretty bad as well. And that largely was a lot from immigration. So we crack down on immigration, we crack down on crime, we prosecute crime. Heath Ellison doesn't prosecute crime very well, doesn't like to do it. That can take care of one chief concern for all of us, just by prosecuting and adhering to the laws that are already in the books. Affordability stuff. We can lower taxes, we can deregulate, make it easier. Anytime you have to do something extra, the cost goes up. So if we can make your job easier, then you can lower prices for your customers, or you can spend less. Hope that answers your question.
My name is Lyle Waltz, not related to the governor. So you partly had just answered the question I have. Federal government wants to cut back, getting away from feeding the state. The state wants to cut back, put it on local, and our property taxes are out of sight. What do you three have in mind to try and help lower our property taxes?
I'll go first because mine's quick and easy. We need to stop government spending. We need to end all of these BS programs that bring in billions of dollars of fraud. So it's killing us. They want to do pay family medical leave. Well, they're going to start stealing that out of the taxes. Well, they don't want to look bad raising your income tax, so they're going to make the counties do it. They'll raise your property tax. It's sneaky. It's unethical. So we just need to cut spending bad. And we need to look at whatever programs that need to be cut. And that some programs need to be cut. That's the simplest answer. Stop spending money. Stop spending your money. You keep your money. You can afford to live.
I think safe government spending, getting rid of all the extra regulation, having 400, I don't know what they say, there were 700 jobs for the new paid leave thing that they hired on, state jobs to cover the paid leave stuff. I mean, that's going to roll downhill with property taxes and everybody else. But I watched something interesting today. A guy went to Ramsey County and asked them to see where all their money went because their property taxes are so high. And $32 million last year went to NGOs from their property taxes in Ramsey County. And that's not what's come out of your property taxes. And it was like 213. So I think we need to start with auditing our counties and see where that money's going and say, okay, yeah, you're not using it right. It's time, like, if you're not going to use it right, you're not getting anything until you get this figured out.
I mean, getting more into the weeds, you know, we also have to just get our real estate market moving. And a lot of times, you know, the property taxes are sometimes a reflection of property values, and when things are stagnant, things don't move and property taxes tend to elevate. And so if we can get things moving, and of course it ties in directly to the crazy inflation that Biden ushered into our country, everything just froze. And so we're just in a deep freeze right now, everything kind of moving, and of course with interest rates and different things that way. But if we can get the housing market moving as well, property taxes will tend to drift down a little bit as well. But I agree with these guys as well. It's a course coming from the top down, and we have to decrease the spending side of things so that the demand for taxes isn't as high. That makes sense.
I also think that we need to look at our schools that we're building, and we don't need the crazy architecture for a public school. We need square rectangles that cost labor's less, materials are less. We don't need a school like Burn that has, I don't know, $500,000 in windows and all kinds of angles that cost so much more to build. If we're paying for that, it needs to be, obviously we vote on it, but a lot of times it's because they put the voting where a lot of people don't turn out because it's the middle of summer when it's nice and we don't even know about it. It needs to be cut back. This is a school. You're there to learn. You know, it doesn't need to be the Taj Mahal. That would cost so much money out of that property tax budget. And then in 5B, I don't know about Todd County so much, Waukegan County, we need more business. I mean, property taxes, I'm okay with some property taxes because I like nice roads and I want my kids to go to school. And I'm okay with some, but it's out of hand. But if we get more businesses spreading around some of that stuff, so we need to promote business in 5B too, to get some more businesses and people building houses. Like Artell County, with all their lakes and businesses, property taxes are way less than Waukegan County because they spread it around more. Again, property taxes are insane and it needs to be cut way down. And I think on the property tax subject, I think anyone that's owned their home and done their dues, the elderly, senior citizens, however you want to word it, should not pay property tax on their home and should not be forced to leave because they can't afford property tax.
We also, yeah.
Sorry.
So, full disclosure, Lisa sent me a message on what I was talking about when I was talking about programs, specifically unfunded mandates. That's the stuff where the state can dictate, they can force the county to do things like hire, specifically, what was the bill? It was some kind of adoption thing. And that the Metro specifically forced through for themselves, and it had something to do with adoption. I forget exactly what it was, but it was racist as all crap, and got to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court said you can't be taking state money for just one race of people. It was for Africans,
African American and Native American children.
African American and Native American children. And so that got sued in court, and then they made the whole state have to pitch in, which meant every county had to hire, it was roughly around 3 more public, social workers, thank you.
Yep.
And then like 2 attorneys. And in Wadena County, specifically, we got to hear about this from Bill, what's his last name? Bill Stearns. This was a long time ago. I still have the paper, I just haven't looked at it in like 3 months. And Bill was telling us about it, and it raised our levy by $1 million. And that increased your property taxes by 13% at least.
Right.
So it is those unfunded mandates, it's government programs, and it's government spending when they don't want to raise your income tax.
That program that started out was fully funded for Hennepin and Ramsey County. And
it was funded for Hennepin and Ramsey when it got passed.
And it still is, it's just not for the rest of the states.
Oh. Okay, so funded for those of you who didn't hear that, it's still funded for Hennepin and Ramsey specifically, which is a prime example of how the Democrats in the cities don't care about us. I guess we're nothing but rocks and cows.
I was just going to add, we have to get our young people buying houses. We're in a little bit of a crisis right now because we're becoming a rental society, which, you know, the rich get richer as far as that goes. But owning a home is one of the greatest social security projects ever. That's actually the best way to build wealth. And we know we have adult children that, you know, are needing to rent, be working 2 jobs, and they're just trying to get the ends to meet. And by purchasing a home at a young age is a really, really important piece to building wealth over time. And so we're at a little bit of a critical crossroads right now, and those property taxes are making it so it's really unaffordable. And so we become a rental society, which is not going to do well for our economy, that's for sure.
So I would like to add one thing that Jeremy brought up. You know, we're sitting here tonight looking at who do we want to have as a delegate and to vote for House Representative 5B. When we get to either if you're a delegate going to the state convention for endorsement, or down the road when we get to the elections in November, one very important position not to overlook is the auditor position. People really don't understand that position, and as a classic example, that position's job is to audit counties, states, or counties and local municipalities. And right now, we know that Walls isn't doing his job, Keith Ellenson certainly is not. It doesn't end there. There's other, we need to get a good auditor in and a good Secretary of State also. So do not overlook these people. I'm glad you brought that up. Thanks.
Go ahead. Okay, just to add on to that with the taxes, the question I got with that is, the direct question I have is property taxes or no property taxes. I've been, my property, I've had for 31 years in my family, so as, I'm not going to just say one person or another here, but for an example is, you know, somebody that is retired or they've earned the property in between is, well, then that passes on to our children at that time, and then we're still paying property taxes on it. In 31 years, I got over $60,000 paid in taxes on my family property. You know, it's not that it was handed to me, I had to pay for it. So the same question goes, or the home market, where today's average income, you have to have $86,000 in the income even to be able to get approved by a bank to buy a house. So having our youth being able to, or in the 18, 19, 20, 30, it doesn't matter. Unless a single person makes $86,000 a year, you're not going to get financed on a house. So not to target what you guys had there, but so the real question I have is just straightforward. Property taxes, yes or no?
I think, like you said, with, if you have your home and you paid, you know, done your due diligence work, paid into your taxes, all that, no. You know, what's the right age of retirement, 62 when you're Russell Street, you're not really sure. Like that, we looked at like what's the magic age for that, and no property taxes on that. Me personally, I don't mind paying some, I mean, but I think we should just be like set amount maybe. I mean, again, this is more research. What we're paying now is absurd. Then again, you know, if somebody builds a house next to you that's $1 million and yours is a $100,000 house, yeah, that kind of sucks for you, because then they're going to raise your taxes to the roof too, because they think your house is worth $300,000 now. But I think for younger people, I would say yes, property taxes, just because I like nicer, you know, I like having some of the amenities that come with paying taxes. Like if we don't have any tax, you're not going to have a lot of stuff going on. Either you're not going to have roads taken care of, you're not going to have certain things getting paid for that, like for elderly and stuff, it's not going to happen without a certain amount of taxes. And I don't know what that amount is. Like, that would be something I want to research, but it's definitely less than what we're paying now, for sure. And it needs to be locked in. It just can't be a free-for-all because we overspent. Hey, let's add another 13% on there, 15% or whatever. It just needs to be, this is what it is. This is your budget off of taxes. It's your deal with it.
I'm in the same boat, but I'm just not educated enough to answer what would happen if I just said, yeah, no property tax. I honestly, I can't speak to that specifically, other than there needs to be safeguards for people so that their homes are affordable. Where really, honestly, people are losing their homes, and something is just off. That's all I can say about that. But I'd have to research, you know, the all or nothing is your question. So I want to respectfully say I would have to research that to really have a good answer whether that's even a possibility.
All right, I can't say no, even though I really, really want to. We do need to pay taxes. There is a role in government, even though our government is failing us, there is a purpose to government. I got it, static.
Plate in your head.
Plate in my head, must be, it's the aliens. But as far as property taxes go, I don't think the government should force you out of your home, especially if you're retired. There should be some way of working on things. Like, it's been in your family for generations, right? Yeah. You should be able to live there. They can't just force you out on the street. Played in my head, I guess. I'm sorry, guys. But I like that you bring up the $80,000 a year. The average income in Minnesota is $56,000. So we have priced out the average Minnesotan. We need to find a way for affordable housing. I recently learned something about the Say Yes to Housing agenda. So there is something in the work, and I do believe it is bipartisan. So we might see some weird wonky stuff out of it, but I just found out I'm keeping my eye on it. Affordability is the #1 issue in America right now.
Hello. I looked around a little bit, and I think I'm the oldest one here, so I should say something. Anyway, we talked quite a bit about youth and kids and so on tonight, and I think that's extremely important. And we have 6 kids, and every one of them is just as great as I could ever ask for. And one thing that I think, if I could make a wave a magic wand, I think communication with families could solve so many things. And the highlight around our home has always been the meals, and that's when everybody talks at the same time about it. And they've all got issues, and you talk and you kind of understand each other better. And if it doesn't work for you at mealtime with all this stuff going on, why maybe you could set a time when you could have family time and have 10, 15 minutes, whatever, to have each person voice his opinion, talk about it. That's what it's all about. And so I just wanted to say that I think we could solve a lot of problems. I taught school for 11 years and I loved it, but I had to farm, and so that's what I've been doing most of my life. But I sure enjoy good stories about all these young people too. Thank you.
I really appreciate you saying that. That's just right in the wheelhouse of what we teach and the importance of family. I think the real pandemic that we're facing as a country is fatherlessness. I don't have statistics in front of me, but the statistics are staggering between a home that has a father versus a home that does not have a father in regards to drug abuse, incarceration, promiscuity, children out of wedlock, all the different things that gauge societal health is directly connected to a father. And so here's a patriarch of a family that has a healthy family because you care enough.
Everyone has a father and a mother.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. And so it's I think there's a messaging that can take place. I think even with the platform that we would be given, there's a messaging about responsibility, about fathering, about sexual promiscuity, those things that are plaguing our society. I didn't even cite this example before, but it's the percentage of abortions in a married couple is like 0.3%. And so, what does that tell you? It tells you that a married couple brings stability to raise a child. And so if we want to tackle some of these abortion problems, tackle some of the problems that our kids are facing today, it starts with healthy family and securing that relationship, one man, one woman, raising our kids in a healthy home changes everything. And I believe in a generation we can turn that around because what they've offered us hasn't worked. You go back to the 60s and 70s of free love, free to be you and me, do whatever feels good. That's been a petri dish of an experiment, a social experiment, and that was supposed to be the thing that set us free and make us live a freer life without constrictions. And how's that working out for us? The studies of teenage girls currently, 60% of teenage girls are either on an antidepressant or anti-anxiety medicine. And I don't say that to disparage anybody, but we're living in a society outside of boundaries. And when we're living outside of what God intended us to live, guess what happens? It's unhealthy and people get hurt. And it affects each and every one of us. And so that's key. It is the key, I believe, to all of life's problems is healthy family relationship. I believe that's the way the Lord intended it from the Garden of Eden, and that's the way He intends it to be today.
Yeah, I think the conversation part is great. A little bit of Charlie Kirk I watched. That's what he did. He went out and got people talking to try to avoid, the blow-ups. And yeah, Dylan and I can have different opinion, and that's okay. I still love it. We're never going to agree on everything 100%, and that's okay. Have conversations, talk about it, and 100% agree. And the beauty thing about now is any one of us gets in the office, social media. I know not everybody's on social media, but it's a huge platform to be like, hey, this is what they're trying to do. This is what we're trying to up against. Like, this is what we're going against. So that's a great option to talk to people, even if you're not face to face. This is what we're up against down here. This is what we're trying to do, and that's a great option now with today's technology.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys knocked it out of the park with communication, family, community, the whole thing. We need that. Humans, we're social creatures by nature. You put somebody in solitary confinement, what happens? They go crazy. They go absolutely crazy. We're not a herd creature like the cow, because if you put cows alone, they go crazy too in a different way. But we do need human interaction, 100%. We got to talk about our ideas. And as a patriarch, you probably instilled some really good values into your kids, which pass on to your grandchildren. And they'll remember you forever for that. And that's what our society needs. We need family and we need community where we can hold, where we can cling for our community values. That's all I have for that.
There's some crazy studies coming out talking about the value of a family meal. As simple as that is, a 10 to 15 minute meal. And the statistics, again, between drug abuse and teenage pregnancies, and it goes down dramatically. And it doesn't even take that long. But those are families today are having problems even connecting at a very short time period. And so we have to prioritize that. And I know that we do in our area. And that's the beauty of rural America, is that we do value those things.
What do you guys think about gas taxes on autopilot?
On autopilot?
Oh, if I'm not mistaken, a couple of years ago, Walton put a gas tax on, and it just every year goes up automatically, so you don't have to vote on it.
Yeah, absolutely not. There's nothing in government should be automatic.
Nothing in our government, sorry. Nothing, this stars me out. Nothing, absolutely nothing. Not law enforcement, not taxes, you name it. We are a government of the people, by the people, for the people. If it's not in our Constitution, it must be voted on every time. I'm a proponent of sunset clauses on bills. So if we pass a bill that's not a constitutional amendment, next session we have to review it and see if it goes forward. Maybe a little crazy, but everything. Our culture has changed. The way I grew up is different than the way every one of you grew up. I don't remember the 60s, 70s free sex liberation movement. I'm dealing with something different. So what works better for me and my age group may be different. So we shouldn't have something, a tax policy or a culture policy from 50 years ago telling us how to live our lives.
Well, he did this about 2 or 3 years ago.
I know. I remember that, now that you say it, I remember it.
I drove a truck for 43 years. I am rather sensitive to the taxes on fuel. And I also farm to this day, and that also affects my farm. And one thing about farming and trucking both, you don't get to raise your prices if your costs increase. You have to wait for either the market to go on one or the other one. You have to beg whoever you're shipping product for to beg them to give you an extra nickel or a dime so you can make up for what you lose. And I've operated that way my whole life. So
this kind of crap is really sensitive to me.
Yeah, and that automatic tax is absolutely abhorrent. I will dismantle it, demolish it, whatever you want to say. No, needs to go. I will die on that hill.
No, it needs, like you said, it needs to be voted out every year. The gas tax, like the IFTA, all the stuff for the trucks that, you know, over-the-road guys have to deal with, or in-state road use tax and stuff. And I get, again, a little bit on it to help with roads, if that's, like, that, I didn't look into more. I know that we ran trucks and IFTA, I hated paying for IFTA because it was dumb to me, like, and I didn't run 48 all the time. We just go stay by a permit to get through, so hopefully we didn't get busted. Or sometimes not by it. But, no, the road, the fuel tax needs to be just like, if there's gonna be a fuel tax, it needs to be set, like, and then you budget after that, like zero budgeting, and this is, you know, you average, like, we had this many trucks last year, this much fuel was used, you know, and let's say 10 cents a gallon versus the 32 cents that I think the gas is at right now for the state and the federal's 28 or whatever it is, and then you buy your extra permitting and all that stuff for the over-the-road trucks, and no, it's out of hand. They just want to add to it all the time. That needs to be stopped. And it needs to be, if there is one, and again, I don't know a lot about it. I know enough that I didn't like to pay it, but it needs to be set at a very stable limit, and it can't just be raised whenever they feel like they put up voting on it and pay us like that.
Well, the answer was in your question when you said Walls passed this, because we know, you know, that there was a reason, and the reason is that there's crazy spending, and some of this green energy stuff has to get paid for, and so they hide it into little things here and there, because at the end of the day, there's got to be a price, and so it's too overtly politically damaging to just say, well, I'm just going to have a green tax. Well, you can't do that. So you got to kind of just put little pieces and parts in different things so that we don't really pay attention to it. Smoke and mirrors. And so there's a lot of things that administration has pushed through that we don't have the money for. So guess who gets to pay for it? You do. And so I'm sorry about that. But those are the things that need to be eliminated, need to be rooted out, need to be audited, and we need to get rid of those. Donald Trump did that. Through this last deregulation, eliminated a lot of that green stuff, and that's going to reduce a lot of expenses. How that trickles down into Minnesota, we'll see, but we need to do that with Walls as well.
With the extra tax, I just noticed when I ordered on Amazon today, there was 50-cent road use tax or whatever it was on there now. And yeah, this stuff has to stop. It's absurd. You know, yeah. Anyways.
Bill Hess from Winger Township. A few years ago, Mike Wiener was sitting in those seats up front, trying to convince us that he was the man for the job. And quite frankly, I was hesitant about him because he didn't have any experience prior to that. He, pretty much the same as you guys, he's finally said, I need to put my vote where my mouth is and do something about it. So I appreciate you guys for doing that. But what gives you guys the confidence that you can fill his shoes?
Confidence is that I'm not him either, and I'm my own person, and I know what I stand for, I know what I believe I can do, and I know that I can add to the good people down there that are working already, like Mike and Krista and the other ones that are truly working for the people and being civil service. I can add to that and not try to take away from it, not come in like I'm the big guy on the cell block, but come in there and say, hey, what can I do to help? Because I have a skill set that they might not have, and I have an outlook that they might not have because of my life experiences. And so I don't want to fill his shoes. I want to come in and be in addition to that.
Yeah, I think the answer to your question, hopefully, in my heart, is humility. I think that you know, when you walk with the wise, you will grow wise, and that's how my parents raised me. And so I will be pulling from resources. We learned in medical school that you don't have to know everything. That may concern you, to know that doctors don't know everything. But we don't, we just have to know where to find it. And that's the key. And so I think, you know, I have a skill set that is important, and I believe the skill set is that I know how to communicate with people, how to listen, how to connect. And so I think that's an important piece. But at the end of the day, I also would like to gather resources around me that even if I don't know the answer, I'm going to find it. I'm a grinder, I'm a type A personality, I'm a high energy guy. And so that I would think would fare well for me because I'm going to go after it. I'm all in on this. And so if I don't know the answer, I'm going to find people that do and that can help me. And I think that's the way we shall live life. But certainly in this role specifically.
So I guess I consider myself lucky that I got involved when I did 3 years ago. And I have worked with Mike. I've been to the Capitol with Mike. And he has shown me some of the processes. Fortunately for the state legislation, and I believe it's also at the federal legislation, we have something called legislative assistants, or LAs. They're basically a secretary. If you want to write a bill, say a tax bill, you can go to your secretary and say, hey, I want a bill for this, this, and this. I want a bill that cuts the gas tax. I want that factored in there, and I want it to work, make sure it works with the rest of whatever tax bill I'm trying to do. And then they will go out, and they will help you write that bill. So there are tools at the Capitol, which is great. There's also a research department. There are 3 research departments. One for Democrats, one for Republicans, and one for independent. Fun fact. So there are tools down there that we can use, and I was able to learn that by visiting the Capitol and hanging out with our legislators. I'm also very fortunate to have very experienced people in our BPOUs. I'm going to give a shout out to Lisa Murphy. She's been involved for a long time. And basically, whenever I have a question, if I can't get a hold of Mike or Krista, I can talk to Lisa. She's a very intelligent woman, does a very good job in Medina County. Also, I will work with, like it sounds like I'm endorsing Mike. Mike's a great guy, great candidate. However, he's running for state senate against Paul Utke. Paul Utke is also a very smart man, and is also, and I've gotten along with him pretty well. And I will work with him, I will work with Krista, I will work, when I'm writing legislation, I will pull from everyone. I will be talking to people the entire time, making sure that my plans are ironclad. So that's why I'm confident that I will do a decent job.
So one thing that I want to add, you know, we're here tonight to see how impressive these people can be to us. But my most impressive moment is listening to all the questions that you people have been bringing. Very impressed with the intelligence, the good questions that are coming up. Unfortunately, that means that we've been here probably a whole lot longer than what most people thought we would be. And so I think to not deprive anyone of questions, if there's any other questions, let's make them real rapid fire, quick question, quick answer, and so we can all get home safely. Not have your legs fall asleep.
It's the lightning round.
The lightning round.
My largest expense is my brain just put on me. Besides the taxes, the property taxes are just terrible, but it's the insurance. 50% of my mortgage payment is taxed in insurance. What can we do about, because the insurance companies are making mega money, and we're all paying the price. Is there anything that we can do to bring down that? Is there anything we can run through government to do this?
I think a good start would be to somehow regulate the frivolous lawsuits that people bring, and the ambulance chasers and the lawyers that are ambulance chasers. And that would help with insurance, because most insurance companies do house and car, and they're gonna pass it on however they can get it. And then somehow there's gotta be, accountability with them to, I don't know how that would do that, but other than like getting rid of the ambulance chasers and trying to stop the frivolous lawsuits that are just costing millions and millions of dollars all the time. So I think that'd be a great way to start.
So for insurance, it's difficult because it's a private business. I know having insurance shouldn't be mandated, but that's a tough sell. Trying to tell somebody not to take insurance was, it's insurance, it's your safety net. That's a tough one, because we have frivolous lawsuits that jack up the price. But if we put a limit on that, it's gonna be a lot harder to get insurance and you may get dropped on insurance entirely. Which means you'll save money, but then you won't have that insurance. Best way I can say is open it up to competition. Let anyone just get an LLC and you can start an insurance company. Do something local. Do a co-op with your neighbors. Do something like that.
Again, I have a medical perspective on this, and Obamacare, how's the Affordable Care Act working? And that's what happens when we get government involved. But competition is the key. I agree with you. Competition is always the answer. When we get them competing against each other, and they're fighting for your business, that's how prices go down. That's the only thing that works.
One last question. Michelle? Oh, I gotta ask you, Clarence, you're never gonna be old.
Okay, so I had somebody approach me and say, you're going tonight, can you please address this topic? You guys led into it, so hopefully I don't screw it up totally. Somebody got put on the Obamacare thing, they were paying insurance, somehow they screwed up paperwork, and I have heard it's happening to quite a few people. They are getting liens put against their houses. You older people, you better be watching your deal and checking it out, is what I was told, because this person has a big lien against their place. And she had no clue because she was paying insurance payments. But with Obamacare and Minnesota Care, somehow it got turned over to MA with just a click of a button. I don't know how much truth there is, but is there anything that can be done? And it's got to get reversed. These people are going to lose their homes.
This is government involvement. I am so in the middle of this myself because I just retired and now I'm switching to a different insurance. I went through MidSure and all I got was pinwheeling. So you can see the look on my face. I've been doing this for 2 days, watching my little computer pinwheel. And as soon as I got into a government system, it just crashed. It never seems to really work. And so the short answer to your question, I don't know the specifics of what your friend is going through. The short answer is get government out of it. They just have to get out of it. They don't ever make it better, ever.
But what if it's too late?
Well,
how do you get it reversed?
lawsuit, yeah.
Well,
Then you got a lawyer.
but
Money.
now he's probably dealing with federal insurance, right?
It was, I understand it right, she was on Minnesota Care, which is an insurance.
Yep.
Somehow it got switched into MA.
Yeah.
Which,
That would be, talk to, she
but
would.
she can't get through to the DHS or Department of Health.
Right, but I mean, she live in Todd or what do you know?
Todd.
Talk to Mike.
She already has it, but he said he didn't know anything about it if I understood it right. And there's a lot of people that this is happening to, and they didn't use healthcare at all. They just signed up for Minnesota insurance, and they paid their bill, but they were getting charged $600 a month because it somehow switched over to the government one.
Oh, federal government?
Medicaid.
Oh, the Medicaid. Then that might be in Michelle Fishbach right now, if it goes over to a federal.
It's not a good deal.
Yeah.
It's happened to quite a few people, supposedly.
Interesting. That might be a fish box thing. Yeah, that might be a Michelle fish box. We went over to a federal thing, then that might be Michelle fish box office.
I really appreciate all your comments and thank you for your presentation. In the 23 legislature, my sister talked to somebody in a meeting with Walls. It's supposed to be a hot light bulb. He was bragging that he did more in a few months, in my opinion, not him, to destroy our state than it took Illinois, California, and all the other liberal states years and years to do. If we don't go back to 23, and I remember listening to the news every night, every day there'd be some crazy thing that he would be signing again because they had a trifecta. If we don't govern and get control of the government, I don't know what's going to happen.
You're absolutely right. And Governor Walz is right. He has done more in 3 months to destroy this state than Illinois or California or New York. I mean, his only competition there is Zoran Mamdani, but he only has one city to deal with. Imagine doing it to a whole state. That trifecta was awful. We were lucky that they didn't pass ERA or, yeah, they tried. They failed, partly due to their own incompetence, thank God. But they also failed on sanctuary state status, and they also, which that was tried, and that was really close. They also failed on physician-assisted suicide. And that's because there was 1 or 2 Democrat defectors on that. And I'm not a fan of physician-assisted suicide either. It's murder, plain and simple, someone else is killing you. But you're absolutely right. We cannot go back to a Democrat trifecta at all. That would destroy us. They've done a lot of damage in 2 years. And we need to undo all of that in the next 2 years. And right now.
So we're getting to the end of the night, but here's a silver lining, I guess, is I think some things that have been subterranean have become exposed. And I'm encouraged by that a little, because certainly the things with Walz, and even him running as vice president, some of the personal aspects of his life and what he has stood for was exposed. Obviously, this fraud issue is national news. Got exposed in a big way. And so I think that's good. And so I'm hoping that there's going to be a groundswell of Republican support this year. I'm praying for that. Because if there's ever a time where we have been embarrassed and we have been the fraudulent schemes of the Democrats have been exposed, it's been now. And so now is the time. So this is my pep talk. Let's garner all the support, even in rural America, and go after what we can to try to put these seats so that we can start working and changing the environment that's been there. And so, I'm even though I'm sad for my state, I'm somewhat thankful that some of these things at least got out into the open. Because now at least the people can kind of see the fruit of their labor. So.
I 100% feel that if every conservative and every Christian in Minnesota voted, we wouldn't have the issue we have at all, because we would have Republican governor, we would have Republican House, we would have everything. And the key to that is getting to the younger people, teenagers that are going to be voting, 20-year-olds, everybody that thinks it's too late to do anything. I've talked to a couple people that say it's not worth effort because it's already gone. Listen, my vote doesn't count. We need to get all those people excited somehow. And how do we do it? I don't know. But that's what we need to do. We need to get everybody excited, everybody to vote. We wouldn't have this issue.
Well, I want to thank everyone, thank our panel, our 3 candidates for being open and honest with us all night. I thank you all for coming, for asking intelligent, wonderful questions, making great comments. Please drive home safely tonight, so tomorrow you can
ponder on all the things that you've been learning and engage with your neighbors and your families and your friends so that come election time, we are at the ballot box, we are voting, and we are making a difference. Thank you all, and have a good night.
And if you put your vote down, if you don't vote, it's 100%. We've had Natalie Celestikar won her seat up by Duluth, Hermantown, by 13 votes. 13, twice now. So every vote does count. And get involved. You know, we ask these guys questions. Most of the people don't even understand how a bill works. Go to the YouTube channel for the House. Get on there, click on some committees, and watch what happens in the committee. Watch what happens on the House floor. Because you think that Drew or any of these guys write a bill, be the best idea in the world, and you think, well, we just vote on that? It's not how it goes. It goes to a committee. And if that committee doesn't like it, it never sees the day of light again. Or it goes to that committee, they change it, bring it off to another committee, they have changes, and then hit another committee, they have changes. Time it gets out, you're like, this isn't my bill. So this summer, we're going to work really hard to put together a Government 101 class to teach people, educate people on how bills pass, how the government works. So we don't have the little, I'm just a bill, sitting here. We don't have those anymore. But we need to educate people on how this works. So when you do get mad, you're mad at the right people. So, Vicki, did you have something to say?
You're not Bill, you're Lisa.
Yeah, I know. I'm just a Lisa sitting there in Capitol Hill. But no, I want to thank you all for coming. Show up to your BPOU meetings. Get involved. Get your neighbors involved. Because we need every single vote. We have the numbers. We just have to get out and vote.
Lisa, when and where are you time again?
Oh, Wadena County BPOU meeting is 4th Tuesday of the month at the Wadena VFW. Next month, it's good, or this month, coming month, it's going to be Burndale Community Center because the VFW is not available. Todd County is.
Todd County is the second Thursday of every month at Charlotte's Tavern. That's a mile south of Long Prairie on Highway 71. Starts at 7. We like to get there early and have a little white meat first. Please show up.
Thank you all.